Okay, so here we are back in the ladies' room with the awesome Dr. Teresa. So I wanted to just chat a little bit with Teresa about the incontinence issue. And if you don't know what that means, you're not really sure what it is. It's that little bit of teensy weensy pee that comes out, and you mightn't really notice it, or you might be really aware of it, and you might be really embarrassed. And don't think that I am talking just to the older population, because that's kind of what we think of, Teresa, when we think of the little sneaky pea that comes out. It's just older ladies that it happens to, but in actual fact it's ladies from 18 into their 20s, early 30s. It happens to so many different groups of ladies that we just don't really realize, and it can be super embarrassing and super annoying if you're in a fitness class and you suddenly have to dash off to the toilet when I start making you do burpees. And I didn't notice this when I first started off doing my fitness class and doing booty camp. As soon as I would start these, maybe skip rope or burpees or little jumps, I would see ladies just dash to the toilet, and it would just be when I'd start the jumpy moves. So can you maybe give us some sort of a special scientific insight to what the hell is going on inside that's making this happen?
Okay, well, to start off with is to sort of understand is that this problem is really common, and it's really common even in young women, as you said. One of the more common things, because I'm sort of blunt, so I get a little of these. Can I ask you a question? And then it's very embarrassing. And a huge one for young women is that little teeny bit of pee comes out when they have an orgasm or when they're having sex. Yeah. And so what happens is they don't really want to anymore because they can't control it. So at first it starts off as like, I'm gonna just hold it. You can't really do both at the same time. So you can't participate and hold it.
Yeah.
And the fear of then when you have an orgasm is basically everything's letting go, and you're really worried, it's not like everything has to let go in a flood, but even a little bit, everybody might think, well, there's, liquids it's a little bit juicy.
Well, and I would think as well, that's like going on a really, really long walk to a sweet shop, and you think that you're going to get the prize, and then you arrive at the sweet shop and it's like, well, sorry, we're closed, you can't have any sweets.
Right.
That's like, you can't have your orgasm.
You can't have your orgasm. You have to just sit there. You work to get there, but you can't have any. And what happens is that starts to snowball. So these women who I feel really terrible for, they don't tell anybody. They don't tell family, they don't tell their best friend, they don't tell their man. I know so many women who literally wear a pad all the time, and their husband or their boyfriend, and it's been happening for years, has no idea that they're plagued by this. Then more towards the end of life, this is what's really horrible. It is by far the main reason that women go into nursing homes. Yeah. So they're going into nursing homes purely because of this sort of incontinence problem that continues to get worse, and they can't move as well because continence and mobility are related. Even a small child, they have to walk before they can control. It's not, no, don't even bother trying to bladder train them until they can walk, because it's literally a pelvic floor maturity thing for them. So you have to have one before you know that you can have the other. So at the other end of life is we see that, and it shouldn't be the other end of your life, is that we see women lose continence and then they lose mobility. So first comes their ability to get to the toilet in time, or they just can't control their bladder very well, and then they are needing a cane and then a wheelchair, and of course then they can't go, and then they're in diapers, and their mind might be in great shape, but you just wilt in that. And it's a terrible, terrible reason, because it's so preventable. And the way that it is preventable is to understand that the pelvic floor is supposed to hold up this 30, 40 pounds of guts. Okay? Now, if you can imagine, if you have this little string and then you put not just 30 or 40 pounds of guts, but then you cough on top of it, if you think that this little finger in the dam is going to hold everything back, you're just asking too much of something little. Whereas if your pelvic floor is working, what happens is it doesn't just block it, it actually lifts. So your brain knows a split second before you cough or you sneeze or you laugh or you jump that you're about to put more pressure. And instead of holding back, it actually elevates. Yeah. And then your sphincter is just left alone. It's actually less pressed upon than it would be in neutral. So I tell women, one of the most common times to have this issue is after you've had a baby. Everything's all stretched out. You can't even feel anything. Your nerves are all, goofed up. Things aren't quite right. You haven't mapped things back into place, as we say. It's like everything's there, but your brain doesn't quite know where it was because it sort of shifted around with those hormones. Mm-hmm. And so I say that they are like a tube of toothpaste with the cap off. Yeah. So when you squeeze the cap, then everything comes out. Yeah. So what we want to do is put the cap back on first, which means getting it in the right place and understanding where the pelvic floor is. And then we actually want to twist it on so that when we squeeze, nothing's coming out that we don't want to. Okay?
And Teresa, for the ladies that are watching this that are like, oh my God, thank God they get it. This has been happening to me. Maybe it's been happening all their life. Maybe it's been happening just since they had a baby or their second baby, whatever it is. And now they're thinking, oh, well, Jesus, thank God there's a fix for it. Probably what they're wondering is, how long is this going to take? I mean, do I have to work at this every day? How do I fit it into my daily routine? And how long is it going to, or does it depend on the damage that has been done to your pelvic floor? Are all of these things?
They all play in. And unfortunately, just like how the whole program works, which is what we'd like to think is, do you have an exercise that fixes this for me? Yes, but if you have a fat tummy instead of a flat tummy because you can't squeeze your corset because your guts are inflamed and swollen and whatever's going on inside the corset, those things are going to take dietary and environmental change to get that inflammation gone. Okay. Because the other reason that the bladder lets go is it's super sensitive. Yeah. Like how you cry when you're having a period, is that any little perturbation of it when it's being sensitized by these irritated, inflamed guts that sit on top of it and make it inflamed, is any little stimulation, it's gonna let go. It's not gonna work for you. And just so people understand too, is that there's even more. There's more. Some women, they have literally problems holding in not just their wee but poo, and not just when they're really loose. Yeah. That they have these problems of in their underwear, not like have a whole bowel movement and not know, but again, these little bits of not really having good control because the nerves got stretched out. But the thing is that nerves get stretched out and they don't know where they are, and you can re-educate nerves, you can re-educate the tone, you can wake things back up. But a big part of the healing is to take an overburdened organs. We're literally asking too much of it's the urethral sphincter. Like this little tiny ring, okay? It's not a band of gold, all right? It's not Lord of the Rings, okay? It is not going to make magic for you. You have to do all of the rest, and that's what we want is like, how can I make this so that it will never, never, never let me down? And it literally isn't supposed to do that, and it can't. And it can for a while your pelvic floor is actually working a little bit, but then when something else goes wrong, we have to address it in another way. So Flat Tummy Mummy is like, why does this have to do with less leaking, which is what I call my incontinence program, and what does it have to do with your feet and things like that, this is an all the body thing. So when we're working on these things, your corset, that's where the on-off switch is. As I said, it's on the pelvic floor. So if we want a flat tummy, we have to do all of these things. Yeah. Because we can have a flatter tummy by working on one things. And we can have more continence, but we can't have more confidence, which means trampoline, like literally never thinking or worrying about these.
And I think the greatest thing, Teresa, about this is that the idea that you don't have to kill yourself to get that ultimate flat tummy. You're going to have to work, of course, you're going to have to work hard at it, and you have to work hard at anything that's worth having and worthwhile. But at least you know you don't have to kill yourself doing this, which is what you see women
Look,
doing all
I'm
the
old
time.
enough to be your mom, and I don't have a problem with my flat tummy, and I don't ever have had a problem with the continence. And that's because both of those things go together, and I've been doing it for a while. It shouldn't be something that just floats downhill. The biggest problem with young women, it isn't quite as common. As you get older, it gets more common. As you've had more babies, it gets more common. But you can have had a C-section. It's not necessarily from a vaginal delivery. The problem that bothers me the most about this, and this is why we have the ladies' room, is how many women are suffering in silence. That my own sister had an operation without even talking to me, and I am a gynecologist because she didn't want me to know. And I don't really understand that because my mom had to operate, and I'm like, what's the operation? Well, the operation is literally like tacking it up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like putting in a little crutch.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want crutches. I want to run and jump and play.
Yeah.
I don't want to like be able to get from here to there.
Yeah.
I want my body to work the way that it's supposed to work. And I want a healthy body all the time. And so this is, it maybe people come and they didn't think flat tummy is, you know, I came because I want a flat tummy. Well, that's great. But I know that a lot of the women who have the problem with the flat tummy are the ones that are having problems with the little bit of wee, and there's all those great mini pads and everything like that, and you know, you just stick one in and you don't even think about it. So it just seems so normal. It isn't.
Yeah.
It's common. Common and normal are not the same thing. So we don't want them to feel this way. They shouldn't have to wear a pad. They shouldn't have to worry. They certainly shouldn't have to worry about like having an orgasm because, you know, or to hold back any of their enjoyment any of the time. I mean, laughing? Are you kidding me? So I always say my less leaking program is called more laughing, more loving, less leaking.
Oh, wow.
So, and
That's
you know,
awesome.
or more living too. But
Yeah.
you know, it really is to not be able to laugh like
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not
like
to
your
think
full
about it
laugh
before-
and think, you know,
Yeah.
that I don't want to laugh because I have to like prepare myself, and even then if I do more than Japanese giggle, you know, then I'm gonna have something that isn't funny at all.
Well, that's going to be a massive release for people that have this issue. That, you know, I don't have the incontinence issue, thank God, because I've been learning how to work the pelvic floor, and you know, I understand this now, and that's great. But for the ladies out there who have this issue right now, I think that it's so important for us to send you the message that don't worry, this can be fixed, and
Completely, 100%.
absolutely, and you can start living once you start working the pelvic floor, which is so important. So, you know, if you're watching this and you have this issue, please don't be afraid, and don't be scared that you're going to be like this for the rest of your life. It will take time and effort, of course. As I said, anything that's worth doing will, but you can be fixed, and that's for sure. So.
Okay, well, I think that's enough about that. When we're always here to help with more in line, but the secret for the Flat Tummy Mummy people is that the Flat Tummy Mummy program basically is almost the exact same program as the less leaking.
Yeah.
So, you know, we help explain to you what's going on and maybe give you a few more real specific pointers, but the bulk of the whole thing about being continent is to have a really healthy reactive pelvic floor and less inflammation in your abdomen. So and the feet.
Yeah.
Springy feet. So the shock absorbers. So you'll get all those in this program, and so it might be a problem that is resolved, but you know, maybe if you can talk to other women, if they felt like someone opened up, perhaps they wouldn't feel like they needed to be so secretive about it.
Yeah. Okay, so you're going to get ready to live, love, and laugh.
Absolutely. And no leaking.
No, that's the most important thing.
Less leaking, no leaking.